Hey everyone, welcome back. So I wanted to make another Bitcoin video. It's been like 2 weeks, I think, and the futures are for sure go now. There's going to be two. There's going to be CBOE and there's going to be CME. CBOE goes first, but the CME is a much more popular exchange for futures. So I get CME data right now. I don't get CBOE data. The only guys that I know that do are people trading VIX futures. So we'll see how that works out. But I've been monitoring the conversation since I made my first video, and I'm kind of seeing some misconceptions out there in the market that I think I have some information that might make things a little bit more clear to people about what's going to happen and how things work. But also put to rest some of what I consider to be fear-mongering out there, frankly. So there's a lot of people that seem to think that when the futures come out that it's just going to immediately crash price. Now, don't get me wrong. Price could peak there, and there is kind of a tendency for when a product starts trading on the CME for it to start going down, because that's when it's like reached peak popularity. But it's not necessarily going to be the futures that bring the price down if that happens. Okay, so there's kind of two things that play into this that I want to stress, and I'll go into those, and then afterwards I want to show you my indicator. So the first thing that I want to stress is that the effect of futures is going to be gradual, okay? So the first day that an instrument trades, there usually isn't that much liquidity for it, and the volume isn't that high, okay? It takes some time for traders to come in and say, okay, yeah, I want to trade this, and start becoming market makers for it. If I'm going to make like a robot for that market, it's going to take me time to find strategies that work, back test them, program it all, get it set up, okay? Especially when we're talking about trading in the future and then doing arbitrage on an exchange and things like that, okay? So there could be a situation kind of like I talked about how the balance of buyers and sellers are going to change, and there's going to be a lot more liquidity and arbitrage going on. And so you could have a situation where the tail wags a dog, and because everybody knows what the correlation is, if they see selling in the future, then everybody on the exchange starts selling too. Okay, that could happen, but it will not happen overnight. Okay, it's going to take time for people to figure out what's going on and for those effects to become stronger and really establish themselves. Okay, so that's the first point. The second point is that it's really important to remember that futures are primarily a day trading instrument. Okay, you're not going to hold this overnight. You'd have to be fucking stupid to hold this overnight, especially with the CME. It's like 5 Bitcoins to a contract. Okay, so you're swinging around, $100,000 here. You're going to hold that overnight? No. You'd have to be a complete idiot to do that. So most people are going to be day traders that are only going to be in for the duration of that day, or maybe even for a few minutes, frankly. They're going to take a position and then they're going to close their position. And not only that, but with the way that futures work, there's only so many people trading that market. And so, once they've all bought into something, some of them have to take it off, and that kind of limits how far price can go. So I've seen some people say that the action that we're seeing in Bitcoin right now is because institutions are preparing for the futures and they're setting up some sort of big trade, like that they're going to crash Bitcoin on the open or something like that. No, because any kind of setup that you're going to be doing is only going to be for like that first day. Okay, so you may well see something where as soon as the future starts trading, they make a really strong push up, and then, there's a flip, and immediately it starts going down and everybody panics. But then, by the end of the day, it's going to stabilize, and then tomorrow's another day. So that's the limit of futures, really. So when people are saying, this is going to crash things, I frankly think that's fear-mongering, and I think you should just ignore people that are saying things like that, especially if they can't really come up with any reason. Okay, so this is the big thing, because when you're talking about trading, especially, people have a very strong confirmation bias, and so they need to be able to explain their reasoning, and they need to be able to give counterpoints to your points. And if they're not doing that, and they just start attacking you or attacking the coin or whatever it is, I would just frankly ignore them. Anyways, so that kind of brings me to my next thing that I wanted to show you guys. So I have a chart here. I think it's really important that you use facts and data. So for me, if I'm going to say we should buy here or sell here, and you're basing it off of some arbitrary 1% of the gold market is one of the things that I've heard. Well, if it's 1% of the gold market, then Bitcoin could be worth 100,000. Who fucking cares how much the gold market is? Why does that matter? It doesn't matter, guys. So what I have done is I've created my own indicator that has been indicative in the past of when Bitcoin is overbought and oversold. So you can see here, this black line is Bitcoin price on a logarithmic scale, okay? This point right here, right in the middle, that's Mt. Gox crash, okay? Bitcoin lost more than half of its value there, okay? Don't let the logarithmic scale fool you. This is a big dip, okay? So this blue line is my valuation indicator, okay? And you can see that here's the scale for the valuation indicator over here. You can see when it gets over about 100, we're starting to get into overbought territory. And when we get to 150 on my indicator, we're in flashing red lights. It's going to crash any second now, sort of a thing, okay? Now, one thing that I want to point out, and kind of why I'm showing you guys this graph, is that if we look at this Mt. Gox one right here, so from here to here, or when it went from 100 to 150, it only took 10 days, okay? So if I went on to Coinbase today and opened up an account and did all the verification and everything like that, and then went and bought a Bitcoin, I wouldn't be able to do anything with that Bitcoin until it confirms. And that could be like a week, okay? So this kind of gives you an idea of how much preparation you're going to have to do to exit a position, okay? So if you just bought today, you might be stuck in that position, and that's a risk I think you got to keep in mind. If you have your Bitcoins stored in a wallet on your machine, in the event of a market collapse, you're going to have to transfer your coins to the exchange, and you may not be able to do that. So that's why I would say right now that we are going into extremely overbought territory, you need to start thinking about your exit strategy. I'm not saying that you should sell, okay? I'm not giving that kind of advice. The advice that I'm giving you is have an exit strategy. Know what you are going to do to get out, and know what you're looking for to tell you that it's time to get out, okay? Because if it starts to get up here and it's happening, it's gonna be too late, all right? And that kind of brings me to my last thing, which is just my own personal opinion of Bitcoin. So for me, I don't own any position in Bitcoin, and unless they make some drastic changes to how it works, I don't think I ever will, frankly. The fact that it takes so long to get a confirmation right now, I think is very troubling. And I simply cannot justify the risk of being in something that exposes me for that long and is that volatile. So I'm not saying that if you're in Bitcoin that you're dumb, okay? That's not true, okay? If you get in there and you make money off of it, then that's great. And as long as you're not using money that you can't afford to lose, right? Okay, this is speculation and you could lose it all. Keep that in mind, right? All I'm saying is have an exit strategy, understand your product. Those are the two most important things, okay? Understand. So today, I mean, Coinbase, it was up big time. And Coinbase is kind of the exchange that all of the everyday people use because it's easy to use. Like when people ask me on Facebook, I say, go to Coinbase, okay? There's a lot of people flooding into this right now, okay? And people that have possibly never traded in their lives, okay? And have never experienced, a significant loss. So people are not rational. They just aren't, okay? And, you are not rational. None of us are, okay? That's why right now, before things happen, you need to know what your plan is going to be, because when the shit hits the fan, you're not going to be thinking straight anymore, right? So that's all I have to say, because I don't want anybody to get hurt in this. I think speculation is fun, but don't get hurt, right? Be smart about it. And that's all I have to say. So I'll be recording the order flow hopefully later, and I'll see you then.